welcome to Scrollin', episode 104. I'm Kat. Joining me as always, Davey Starjumper. How you doing, man?
Doing good.
Feeling old?
Feeling old. You know, we're reminiscing about just a couple old men back when we were some young whippersnappers.
Yeah, tell you how it was in our day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're not here to talk about old man stuff, or are we? We're here to talk about the Elder Scrolls Online. So Elder Scrolls Online is a video game that we play. We actually had a maintenance patch this week, which I was really hoping would happen because that food buff bug has been so annoying.
They did wait for like this. I think it was the second to last line of the entire patch notes, but they did.
It was the very seriously the second to last thing.
I was as I was reading through, I was like a bead of sweat formed on my forehead. It was like, oh no, oh no, oh no, but they got it.
Well, I didn't worry too much because they did mention in that kind of opening paragraph, they mentioned something about it. So I knew it had to be in there. But yeah, that's been frustrating. We've been just kind of going through the food because you can't tell if your food buff is active or not. It's not clear. So I just kind of approximate I guess it's been about 2 hours or however long, and I'll just eat it. We've just been going through the food. I use sugar skulls, which aren't super cheap.
Nope. I just been using new sugar skulls at the start of every BG. That's what I've been doing.
What?
Start the BG, eat the sugar skulls. Yeah, that's what I've been doing. Well, because it's like every time you go, that's the only way to fix the health, the resource bar UI. And
that's true. I've just been living with it.
I can't handle it. It throws me off when it's super small. It stresses me out.
Oh, it sucks. And especially if somebody does something to reduce your max health, it shrinks to nothing. Looks like your health bar just disappears entirely.
Looks like you have 12 total health.
Yeah. Yeah. So glad they fixed that. That was such a, I don't know, it's a small-ish thing, but it was so frustrating. But aside from that, there was some Arcanist related stuff. They slowed down those crux triangles that rotate around your character. They go way slower now, way, they're hardly even moving. And then they're also no longer permanent when you're outside of combat. They only last 30 seconds, which I'm thankful for.
Yeah, good change.
Yeah, that's annoying to just, I would find myself having to cast abilities to consume it just so it would go away so I can just stand there like a normal person. Some other small Arcanist fixes that aren't worth mentioning, some companion-related stuff, some quest-related fixes for the new content, some stuff with the new trial, some tweaks, some fixes to that, and then that food buff thing. That's basically all we got in the maintenance patch. So let's talk about the Necrom chapter. Davius, I know you've been playing it lately. Did you finish the story yet, or are you getting close, or what?
I haven't finished the story yet, but I feel like I'm pretty close. I'm pretty deep into Apocrypha, into the quest line, but I'm really liking it. I'm very intrigued. I'm following it. It's a good story and good NPCs. I like it. The zones, very, very impressed with the zones. Both zones. Which is surprising. I expected Apocrypha to be cool, and it's held up. Very cool zone. But the Telvanni Peninsula, much cooler zone than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that zone has really, really grown on me. I would say that is maybe the most standout thing of the whole thing is because I was expecting that zone to be kind of boring and something I've seen a lot of before with the mushrooms and all that stuff. But yeah, the more I explored, the more I got through the content. I completed I 100% of the zone. I did everything. But yeah, I really come to really like the zone. There's actually some really cool little nooks and crannies you can get into in there. It has a real magical vibe to it. I said this on the Booncast last week about how they seem to be using the fact that mushrooms are often associated with wizardry and stuff like that, They kind of lean on that and play that up quite a bit in the zone, it seemed to me. It definitely just had that sort of, I don't know, magical shroom wizard sort of thing going on.
Yeah. I honestly, and I told you a little bit about this, but I've played the Elder Scrolls games all the way back to Morrowind. Yeah. And I loved Morrowind. That was the one I started with, so it's very kind of nostalgic for me. That was the one I really fell in love with. But I haven't felt like that in Morrowind. It talks about Telvanni and there's Telvanni parts in it, but I had kind of forgotten how cool that, like what you had just said, was the mushrooms and the mushroom towers and like how magical they seem. And I'd kind of forgotten how cool that is, and that's one of the things I really liked about Morrowind. And to see it again in Elder Scrolls is a really, really cool feeling. And they did such a good job of replicating that feeling with updated graphics, to say the least.
Yeah, they really exceeded my expectations with that. Yeah, and of course, Apocrypha was just like a
Yeah, that
waking dream or something. That place is nuts.
wait, like I had high expectations for how cool that zone, and I would say that like expectations achieved, like absolutely lived up to my expectations with how cool that zone is.
Super cool. Now the northern part, another clear example that these devs played a lot of Elden Ring last year. That northern part of Apocrypha looks exactly like Caelid for anyone who played Elden Ring. Tell me I'm wrong. Like those guys played some Elden Ring, no doubt about it. I think it's a good thing. That's a wonderful, amazing video game, and I think they've picked up a few ideas from that game that they've implemented into ESO. We've talked about that before, but like Oaken Soul, I think is an example of that. Um, Not that there's an Oaken Soul in Elden Ring, but the fact there's an option like that that like raises the floor, but not necessarily the ceiling or lowers the ceiling.
Hmm.
That's kind of how that game deals with difficulty. So anyway, the content's awesome. The story, seriously, I found it very captivating. I was legitimately like wanting to see what happened next. I wasn't just spamming through the dialogue. I was involved. I was really like invested in the story and the characters that I was talking to. I think it seriously has been since Somerset that I felt that way about a chapter story, that I really actually cared about this situation here. And it's twisted. It's like it's weird. It's dark.
Yeah.
It was just entertaining. Like every step of the way, you're just like, wow, what is this place? It's just like some crazy mind palace or something.
Yeah, and I would even argue it's very detailed on, like, I don't know even know how to say this, but it goes really well with the content and the lore of this zone. But it's like they show you this really kind of just outside the box wacky place, and then they tell you like the purpose of it in this. I don't know, it's very like innovative. Like, here's this wacky crazy place, and here's the purpose of it and how it fits into this whole world of like knowledge. And it's just really cool, like, and to see how it all pieces together. Like, it just seems very well thought out. Like, they really put a lot of time into designing this entire zone, and this Daedric prince and how it works and how his world works. Like, I just thought it was like very innovative and worked together really well.
Coolest Daedric realm, right? It's got to be.
Oh, so far, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, maybe there'll be some cool ones. I don't really know all the Daedric realms that well, but this is the coolest one in ESO for sure.
Yeah. Of the ones that we have access to, the coolest one we've seen. And you were saying in the Discord, and I totally agree. The delves in this chapter are amazing.
Oh my
They're
gosh!
like on a
Like,
whole other level.
what's crazy about that is that when I said that in the Discord, I was in a delve, and I was just wowed by like how massive it was, how detailed it was, and like just how crazy and wacky it was. And that's not even the cool. Like, I've been in two other delves that I would say are even cooler than that one since then. Like, they even
Yeah.
were higher than that one, and I was like,
Yeah.
holy cow! Like, I mean, just vast.
And
Like, just
those little side quests that you do as part of the delve, they're pretty interesting too. I
yeah,
found those to be surprisingly like I'm kind of involved with this person here. I kind of want to make sure they get through this thing.
yeah. I've never felt like, I don't know. One of the coolest things about the Apocrypha delves is like you're in those and you really feel like you're just in this endless vast space. Like, they did such a good job at making you feel so your character, like, you legit feel incredibly small as you're running through this place. Like, I
Yeah.
just thought that was so cool how they did that, and that perspective that they kind of build for you. And you can, like, as you run around, you kind of look back at the rest of the delve and you're like, holy cow, like, this place is just massive.
It's like a public dungeon.
Yeah, it really
Yeah,
is.
they're
I haven't been to the public dungeons yet, so like, I mean, my expectations are through the roof right now.
they're pretty cool too. Yeah, I liked them. Um, so I played the story with a brand new character with my Arcanist, and I finished the story at level 20, right at level 20, and that was with no training gear. No, I wasn't going out of my way to level or get XP. I was just playing naturally, just whatever happens happens.
I feel like that's a pretty good measuring tool.
Yeah, it's not too bad. So I finished about level 20, and then I power leveled. I went ahead and I crafted some level 20 training gear and really got my training build all put together, and I was super efficient with my leveling from that point forward. Like I didn't think about it at all, like not one iota, like intentionally up to that point. And then when it's time to level, like okay, I'm putting on the gloves. Like
It's time.
it's time to get scientific with it, and I got leveled up pretty quick. And I'll talk more about my Arcanist later on, but um, yeah, it's all pretty much put together more or less.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I thought the side quests, like the delve quest, the little quests that you do for the public dungeons, all those things are totally worth doing in this chapter. All of them are really interesting. Some of them have some really interesting twists. Um, some are pretty funny. Some of them give you actually quite a bit of insight into like Hermea's Mora or other Daedric beings. Like there's this one with the Zivkin that I was telling you about last night, Davius, that I really really enjoyed. Um, I won't give away too much about it, but it was like it just gave you a lot of insight into like who these beings are, and you kind of think of Daedric beings as like just evil. They're just demons in this game, and they're just straight evil, and that's all they are. But then they have these quests that kind of show you like not exactly. That I mean that is what they are sometimes, and other times they are not that at all.
Yeah, just
And
themselves. They're gray area for sure.
yeah, and there was this thing kind of with a like a vague romantic sort of interest between these two, but because of how Zivkin are, it was just kind of an interesting thing how they existed around each other. That was in Apocrypha. I can't remember the name of the quest, but it was really cool. I really just enjoyed kind of learning about these beings that you really don't know a ton about, or I don't. Um, the world boss arenas really really impressive. Like another thing that reminded me of Elden Ring, where you just kind of walk up on like, whoa, what is going on here?
What the
This is
heck is?
obviously like
Yeah,
my eye is being drawn to this location. Breath of the Wild also had a lot of stuff like that. Like just the environment is just drawing you to this place. Yeah, the world bosses, a lot of them are super cool themselves, and more than the world boss, just the arena that they're in, like where you fight them, are very very cool.
yeah, very very cool.
Some characters of note: the main quest giver, Laramil the Wise. I thought she was pretty cool, very different for kind of a main character that we deal with in a game. Is this a brand new character?
I think so. I don't
She's got to be
remember it
right.
from anything else. Yeah, because she seems very specific to Hermaeus Mora. So I think I'm pretty confident to say she's unique.
Yeah, I think she's brand new. Um, I liked her. She's like a nerd. I feel like she's a nerd. Like that's my like interpretation of her character. Like if she was in our world, she'd be like totally a gamer or something like that.
Very logical, to the point.
Very, yeah, she's like a Vulcan, just
Yeah.
very, just kind of straight to it. But also like, I don't know, she's warm and inviting in a sense, She's, I don't think she comes off as robotic necessarily. And
No.
there is a softer side to her that you will.
Okay.
I don't know if you've
Okay.
picked up on yet in the quest or not, but there's some other stuff.
Haven't gotten there yet. I'm excited.
Naru makes an appearance, always a pleasure. She's saucy as always. The unfortunately named Scroot. Um, I liked him quite a bit. The little miniature
Yeah.
squid guy, watcher dude. He's pretty
Screwed is
cool.
a lot of fun. And really cool. They do such a good, and they've done a good job of this in the past, but they did an extra good job. So, like, I would say so far where I'm at of like how the Daedric beings handle mortals, and like how they're just like
Yeah,
just such a different perspective of like existence to them compared to mortals. Like, and Screwed is always talking about that of like what matters, what doesn't, what's the purpose, why they do things.
Yeah, he makes so many cracks. I think it was him that was saying, like, he needed you to do something, and he's like, "Maybe you can do it before you die." I don't
Yeah,
know.
like,
It's like
I don't know how long y'all will last, like
yeah.
and really cool, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but whenever Scroot's with you, you get some really cool, like, abilities, like, you can activate abilities by Scroot, and, like, a
Yeah.
giant tentacle comes out and, like, fights
Yeah.
for you.
It's pretty cool.
It really led me down the path, and you can tell me I'm crazy on this, like, I would say, me and you are not big companion people, me probably more so than you, but that's not saying much, like, we don't do much with companions, but, like,
Yeah.
why not do a companion like Scroot? Like, why not have crazy races for companions? Like, if it's
Oh,
only
yeah, that'd be
if it's
great.
yeah, like have like I want a giant as a companion. Like, why not? Like their target boxes shouldn't matter for that. Like, it's only for PVE content. They're only limited where they can be. Like, give us a giant, or give us a Scroot, or give us some wacky race. Like, have a mammoth companion. I don't know. Like, I started thinking about that the other day, and I was like, what's limiting them? Like, why does it have to be playable races to be a companion? Like, give
What's
us
I think
a
what's limiting them is how much has to go into a companion. They have to have all these quests and all this rapport system,
That's
and
true.
what will happen is we will get Screw as a house
Yeah.
guest, or is that what they're
Yeah.
called, house guest?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
we will
agree with you
definitely get
there.
that.
Definitely gonna happen. And you're probably right. For companions, like, you can decorate them with gear. How would that ever work on those? Like, that's probably a lot of work, but I don't know.
That's another thing, yeah.
If it ever gets down the road where you could have some really wild, wacky, like, non-playable race companions, I think that'd be really cool. You know me, I just
I
want a Nord, but I do think a lot of people would get into companions if you could get a little bit more unique with it. That'd be pretty neat.
Yeah, we've said it before, but, the companion thing could be so cool if they would just greatly simplify what they are. Like, we don't need the quests, we don't need the rapport stuff, we don't need that stuff. What we do need is, like, 1,000 different companions to choose
Yeah.
from.
And, like,
That's what we need.
if you give us a Scroot, like, I don't need to be able to put gear on Scroot. Just let me change
Yeah,
the colors of tentacles or something, Like, let me pick the three color, like, treat that companion like you would a costume, where you basically dye three colors on the costume. Make that Scroot like a costume. You just pick the three colors and it change. Like, there's still
yeah.
cool stuff you could do to make it unique. That'd be really cool.
You were talking about these Bastion Mimics. I actually never did any of them, but, you thought they were pretty cool, right?
Yeah, the Bastion Mimic, it's kind of uh uh evolved version, I guess. Like, they've come a long way from anchors, I would say. Like, these things are one, they're a little tricky. Like, I would not say they're just like a breeze to get through. They probably the coolest thing that I would say is that they force players to group up and play together, but, like, in a good way. Like I was telling you, I actually soloed a Bastion Mimic, but I do not recommend that. It was not fun. It was a grind. It took me like an hour almost, maybe longer than
Oh,
an
damn.
hour, to just grind through. But then since then I've grouped up, and it's been so much more fun. I've grouped up with random players in the zone that are kind of sharing the quest, and you go and group up. I've been very impressed with the Bastion Mimic. Like, they've really done a good job, in my opinion. Not just, for a long time, it was just kind of copy and paste of the anchors. It was just kind of, here's this version anchors, here's this version anchors. I just think it's really well designed, and it's a very cool, new, fresh take on kind of what the anchors have become.
Nice. Hey, Uncle Sam and Jorl. Thanks for
Hey,
joining us, guys. Good to see you. Um, and I guess I meant to mention this earlier, but just the Arcanist class seems like it's been really well received. Like is
oh yeah,
like compared to the last time we got a new class, this one functions properly for the most part.
it
Um,
works.
It seems like, in my experience, they're pretty powerful, they're pretty fun to play with, they're not, like, totally broken OP when I'm going up against them in Battlegrounds or anything like that. I think that's a pretty good sign, like, if I'm having fun on my Arcanist and feel like I'm being successful, and at the same time, I'm not feeling frustrated when I'm going against other Arcanists, To
Yeah.
me, that's a sign that things are in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I would say so. I 100% agree with that. And, I think the biggest thing for the popularity is just how many Arcanists you're seeing right now. Like, they are everywhere.
Yeah.
There is a lot of them out there. And I would agree with you. Like, in BGs, I think that I've seen some that perform really well. But, like, when I see one, I'm not afraid to go and pick a fight with it or go against it. It's kind of a good balance to it.
Yeah, and I was saying last time that I I was wondering if I'm actually going to find them to be mechanically interesting. Like once you get past the visuals and stuff, am I really just going to enjoy the mechanics of the class? And I think so far, yeah, I am. It actually feels a lot like playing a Dragon Knight. And Uncle Zame actually put it this way. I might have just been last night. Described him as a mid-range Dragon Knight. I think that's pretty accurate as far as like the kind of like what they bring to the battlefield, like with this AoE pressure and the crowd control and that kind of stuff, and the way that they deliver their damage. It's kind of like these brutal blows after brutal blows, rather than like aligning, like making the planets align for this one, big burst attack the way like a Sork does. It's more like these kind of I don't know, just kind of like this steady march of damage that's just always coming down with this constant CC. You're stam draining people. Um, and as far as their support capabilities go, they do have some support capabilities. I don't think they compete with Wardens at all in the like as far as like being a healer on a BG team. I think you still want your Warden as your main healer, and Arcanist doing like a 50-50 thing, probably what they're going to be good at. My only criticism about the class so far is that they have a few dead morphs, like a few morphs of their skills that are just kind of dead on arrival. Like there's no reason to use that one when there's this one. That's the only kind of nitpicky thing I have.
I would even say, what you were kind of talking about on the balance side is, I feel like last episode, I talked about one that was really oppressive. And I'm very glad that that was more a specific Arcanist. And that has not been the case for the other Arcanists. Like, overall, I do feel like that they're pretty usual. And that was a very one off Arcanist, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think that person that you saw could have put that same gear on a Dragon Knight and it would have been equally
Yes, equally
as
oppressive.
oppressive. Um, so yeah, they seem good. That's basically our impressions of the Necrom chapter. Best chapter since Somerset. I'm gonna go ahead and say pretty darn good one.
Yeah. And I mean, it seems silly, but I feel like we can't understate like just how smooth the chapter's been. Like,
Super
everything's
smooth. A few
working.
bugs. The food buff thing is the worst thing
Yeah,
of the whole thing, which is not bad at all.
yeah, and the meta's not broken at all. Like, the meta's good in BGs.
Yeah,
Like, everything's running smoothly. Like, it's in a good
yeah,
spot right now.
it really is. Um, we're gonna take a break here in just 1 second, but first I want to mention this Shattered Fate set. That's this new 12-piece crafted set that we just got. It's that one that only has a 5-piece, a 10-piece, and a 12-piece bonus. I just want to talk about the 5-piece bonus. Another shout out to Uncle Sam. He pointed this out to me. Um, if you just wear 5 pieces of Shattered Fate, that's 79-18 penetration is what that gives you. And if you compare that to the Spriggan or the Spinner armor set, so that 5-piece bonus gives you penetration, but then the 2 through 4-piece bonus, like Spinner, it's like 2 lines of max stamina and 1 line of weapon and spell damage, I think. So if you were to replace those 2 through 4-piece bonuses with just all penetration all the way down, then that's basically what you're getting with the Shattered Fate 5-piece. You're getting Spinner or Spriggan if the 2 through 4-piece bonuses were all penetration also. Kind of what that adds up to. So basically a better version of those sets, because max stats are not super valuable in today's meta. Max stats are pretty plentiful.
Yeah.
So it's pretty easy to give up, 2k or so worth of max stats for some more penetration, a lot more damage. So, and it's crafted. You can craft it in any trait, any weight, any weapon type you want, whatever. So anytime you might be considering Spinner or Spriggan on a build, don't do it. Do Shattered Fate instead.
Yeah, much more focused. Just all in on that pin.
Yeah. Sam says he front bars it on his Nightblade now. Pretty decent. Yeah, it seems like exactly that. Decent, right? Like, that's not broken. That's not a. I mean, 8,000 penetration sounds like a lot, but you have to wear 5 pieces to get it. But it's decent. It's pretty decent for that investment.
Yeah.
And I went ahead and looked at the other bonuses too. Like the 10 piece is basically equivalent to another 5 piece set. It's basically like Julianos if it was all weapon and spell damage all the way down. And then the 12 piece, I think, is basically just like the Mother's Sorrow 5 piece bonus, is essentially what you're getting out of all that. Um, so it's like mathematically it adds up to like those sets or whatever, but the fact that you can't back bar, front bar, anything, you're not wearing a mythic, all that stuff. I still think those things need to be juiced up. That 10 and 12 piece bonus needs to be juiced up. But that 5 piece totally has a place. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I think you're right on the 10 piece. Like that's a lot of weapon and spell damage. But when you're dedicating 10 pieces, I know max
Yeah.
stats are plentiful, but when you've got 10 pieces spoken for, you're going to be struggling for max stats and sustain, and there's a lot
Yeah,
of
with the
things.
5 piece, that can be your front bar set, and you can have something else on the back bar. But with 10 pieces, you're dedicating too many pieces in
Yes,
that case.
absolutely.
In PvP world, we just got out of the worst weekend ever, domination
Oh
weekend.
man, honestly, I was thinking about this the other day. Like when they first announced this theme weekend, I can't remember. I feel like me personally, I was like excited about it and hopeful. Like I thought it was a cool idea. So I think we were kind of semi excited about it. But I think I'm to the point where it's like I almost wish that they didn't do them just because.
Every time it's not deathmatch, I'm just
Yes,
angry.
it's a nightmare. Every time it's not deathmatch weekend, it like almost you almost have to decide like, man, do I want to do BGs this weekend? Especially on like this past domination weekend. Oh my
Sam
gosh.
skipped it. Uncle Sam skipped it. I didn't
No,
see
he
him for like
didn't.
3
He's
days.
lying. He didn't skip it. I logged on and he talked. That's why I haven't finished the quest yet. I logged on and Sam talked me into doing some BGs. He didn't skip it. Don't let him trick you.
Well, he held out for a couple of days at least. I didn't see him for a couple of days. That's the longest I've ever seen Sam go without scrolling.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, I think I'm done with I think I'm done with the weekend events. They have not been a good thing, I don't think.
The one good thing about it is there is a lot of participation. It seems because the queues are pretty fast during the events, but otherwise it's frustrating because you get the fast queue, but then you get in there and it's hard to actually do PvP because of all the things we've talked about a million times, right?
Yeah.
Like
Well, and that's
your
the other
teammates.
well,
Go ahead.
I think you were just about to say it, but that's the other problem with it is it's like these weekends are only promoting more infighting within the BGs. Like it almost brings it to like a peak of people fighting about,
Yeah, you're
do the
right.
right way. And so it's just could be better.
Let's hope we're getting that lobby system in Q3. Our hearts are set on it. I need it. I really need it.
We
That's like
need it.
I'm like really just hanging on to that hope. Even that's not a perfect solution. Like honestly, we don't have to get into it, but it's better than nothing.
It is better than nothing. I agree.
I just want to mention that heavy attackers still exist. This patch did nerf them, but it did not delete them. They're still out there. I see them quite a bit. And we just talked about the Arcanist a little bit, but I do want to bring them back up in this PvP discussion because their effect on the meta has actually been pretty darn mild, I think, which is surprising to me. I was expecting it to be like an atomic bomb, um, but it really hasn't been, right?
No, other than just the amount of them, but like I would agree. Like there's nothing, all like there's not been an epic shift to on how to handle them or to deal with them. The characters that I had that were good in the previous meta, like they're still doing good in this meta. Like an Arcanist against Arcanist.
Yeah, all my old builds are still great. The meta doesn't seem like totally flipped on its head at all. Um, KDMS says Arcanist almost the same tier as Necro. I don't know about that.
That seems a
Um,
little harsh. Don't be that harsh to Arcanist.
but but there There is maybe like a tiny little kernel of truth to that though. Like they're not like crazy broken at all. Like I don't think they're necessarily even the strongest class in the game. You know, I think that probably still goes to maybe sorcerers, dragon knights, wardens. You know, I don't know. Arcanist is really good. They're really strong and they have a lot of great strength. They're impossible to kill. Um, and they're basically have the offense of a dragon knight, but they can be a little bit further away from the fight from a little bit safer distance, a little bit more team support to provide. So I mean, they're a great class, but not overpowered and surprisingly not super disruptive to this sort of mild meta that we have already had for a while now. Pretty cool. I've been very impressed with this release of a new class compared to the Necromancer. I mean, how long was it until the Necromancer finally became playable and, you know, was a decent class for a little while there?
Well, and the Necromancers were their own mess because it was like when they first came out, they were terrible. And then they fixed them and they were like way overpowered. And so they kind of teeter tottered back and forth. They were like either horrible, they didn't work, and then they really buffed them up to where they were super OP, and then they kind of nerfed them. It just this is this has kind of been a very mild release of a new character compared to the Necro that seemed to kind of bounce around a bit.
Yeah. Um, Another interesting thing about the Arcanist, we've kind of mentioned it before, but I just want to sort of focus on it. The fact that they are a mid-range class, really. Like, they're range spammable. It's a shorter range than other range spammables. It's 22 meters instead of 28. The tentacle is 15 meters. The that like rune hex thing that you like fear or charm people with, that thing's a 15-meter range. Your dot that the rune break dot thing that you put on people, 22-meter range. Like none of their offensive abilities have the full long range, and none of them are fully a melee ability either. They're all in that middle 15 to 22-meter area. So that it's interesting. You can't really play them like unless you're using non-class abilities. You can't really play them like a Sork where you're like standing up on a ledge pewing down on people. You kind of have to get in the fight, but then you can kind of stand back from it a little bit and toss things in there. But you have to be close enough where people can fight you if they want to. Luckily, they're impossible to kill as long as you have that
Yeah.
that one shield ability on. Nobody's going to kill you.
Yeah, that's what I was going to kind of say. Like, kind of three things that I've come away with with Arcanists and BGs is one, their tankiness. Like that seems to be kind of their go-to. Like they are very difficult to kill. They kind of go all in on the tankiness and kind of turtle up. And then two,
well, you don't have to build into it though. It's just the class that's tanky. Honestly.
Just there.
Yeah.
And then two is that their damage seems very like they have good damage, but it's very like drawn out. Like it's not stacked up like burst damage. It's kind of very, here's this that's going to do good damage. Here's this that's going to do, and it kind of follows in line of like, I don't think their burst is necessarily really high, which I don't know. In my weird mind, like that matches their tankiness. Like they're not like a high burst damage. They're kind of more of this. They're going to throw out methodical damage and be tanky.
Yeah, that's why I kind of equate them to DKs. You know, it's it's a battle of attrition kind of style, but just in a little bit different way.
And then the last one is just that we've seen this from a lot of really good players that they seem a little bit dodgeable or counterable, if you would. Like once you kind of have an idea of their toolkit, like they may be, I don't know, a little bit easier to counter than maybe some other classes.
Yeah, that is one thing about them. I think that's it. Is like there's a ton of power in their toolkit, but the way everything is put together, there's a counter for everything. Like once you kind of figure out what their toolkit is and what they're coming at you with, you can counter them. You know, you might have to think quick on your feet or whatever, but there is always a thing you can do. You know, in response to whatever they're trying to do to you. But at the same time, like I don't know. There is some depth there. Like I've been playing a lot with my Arcanist. I've been getting a ton of kills. There are some combo mechanics. The damage is good, and I think if you play smart, you can get those kills. It's kind of like playing a DK. You know, like there'll be matches where you get a lot of kills, but if there's some Sorks, you won't get so many kills, and it's just kind of the way she goes.
Yeah.
Um, so some tips that I'll throw out there from my experience playing my Arcanist. I think I've gotten pretty decent with mine. So the Impervious Rune Ward, that's the class damage shield ability, and it heals you based on how much crux you consume. And it's like double the size for the first second that it's active. That's the carry ability. That's it right there. You slot that ability, you're not gonna die. It's just like vigor and that ability. That's it. You're done. You like that's survivability is covered. The tentacle, I think that is the undo withoutable ability. I was
Yeah.
worried that the beam cannon was going to be kind of the thing where all the power was, but that's really not so much the case. I think the tentacle is the thing that you kind of have to have on your build. And whichever morph you choose, there's a magica morph and there's a stamina morph. And I think in my mind that decides are you if you're a stamina arcanist or are you a magica arcanist. Whichever morph of the tentacle you choose, you put your attribute points in that stat and go from there. So because of that though, because of the tentacle and because it's so important and so much of your power is in that, I think War Maiden, we had said before that War Maiden would be a good set for this class, but I retract that. I don't think so at all because neither morph of the tentacle deals magic damage. And you really do lean on that ability, I think, quite a bit. I mean, it's a 15-meter long spin to win is what it is that immobilizes people and debuffs them. So you don't want your main damage 5-piece set to not even apply to your most important offensive ability. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that can't work.
I've actually been kind of having a hard time with mine, finding like the perfect set. I'm using a build that's good enough for now. That's just gear I had in my bank, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And it's totally great as it is. I may not even change it just because I can't think of anything better. But I think you probably just want to try to go for just straight stats rather than like something like War Maiden or something like that. Next tip, the Tide King's Gaze ultimate, the main damage ultimate, the tentacle dude that hangs out above your head and blasts that giant beam down to the ground. Mandatory. That's like one of the best parts of playing the class. That thing hits so super hard.
So hard.
You'll get a ton of kills with that thing. Like you cast that on somebody, fear them with your little fear thingy, and or charm them, whichever one you prefer. You'll get a few kills out of that guaranteed. The Gibbering Shield ultimate, I use that as my back bar defensive ultimate. Either morph, they're both good. One does damage based on damage received. The other one just gives a shield to your allies. That's the one that I use. They're both great. Really great, like get out of jail free card. Honestly, I rarely use it for myself though. I usually just use it to save my allies when they need help because I have no problem keeping myself alive with that Impervious Rune Ward. I cannot remember the names of this class's abilities. That's one thing. Like all the words just kind of jumble together in my head. I can't remember what anything is called.
I can't remember the class abilities on the characters I play every day, so I'm impressed that you've already got these remembered.
No, I'm looking at this outline and reminding myself what they are. I've tried both Magica and Stamina variants of the Arcanist, and in my experience, the Stamina version seems easier as far as like resource management and just finding an easy bar setup and having all the tools you need and everything like that. It just seems a little easier on the Stamina setup. So that's the version I think I'll be sticking with. It's weird because they have those abilities that like the cost is dependent on whatever is your highest stat or your lowest stat or whatever. So kind of figuring out how much sustain you need and that sort of stuff for the various resources is trickier, or it's just different than it is on other classes. Like for example, like that rune break ability, it always will cost your off resource no matter what, so you can't like, decide like, well, I can't afford the Magica cost on this as a stamina build, so I'll be a Magica build because guess what? Now it costs stamina. So there's just some interesting considerations there, but I find the stamina version to be easier. And what I've heard some people say, and it makes sense to me, the meta BG squad is probably still a Warden main healer. You have your Arcanist like generalist doing like damage and some support. You got your DK brawler and a Sork. and that's probably your meta squad right there. We'll see. I mean, we still have some time for things to play out, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But that seems probably pretty likely. Sam says no. 4 Necros. Okay.
All right,
I don't
Sam,
know.
let's test it. Let's test this.
Let's test it. Actually, I think he's referring to there was one night we got 4 Necros together, and and it was actually surprisingly awesome. We all had the Menders active at the same time, and those things were nerfed and they are a lot weaker than they used to be, but when you have all 4 of them going and they all 4 heal someone who's low on health, it's pretty darn effective.
That's pretty
we were going up against some pretty legitimate squads that night too, and doing well.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty hilarious. Sam says it was wild. I was shocked.
Just kind of going back to the Arcanist, I think you've kind of really hit the nail on the head there with I think right now the beams are kind of getting all the flash, the beam ability, but I think you're right. I think once we see more players shift to the tentacle being kind of the go-to ability for the class, and the beam being more of a PvE based ability, I think we're going to start seeing kind of the more productive Arcanists, or see them kind of have an uptick in Battlegrounds and PvP.
The beam is an absolute no-go in PvP, unless you're like maybe ball grouping or something like that. But I have never been even touched with it, I don't think.
Yeah, but people are still using it. You still see it in BGs all the time, but it hasn't quite caught on that it's like it's a fun looking ability, but it's not effective in PvP. Sometimes there's just abilities that are that way.
Yeah, it's a blast in PvE. But shout out to Wanted by My Dog. It was pretty funny because we were in voice chat together one night, and we were in BGs on opposing teams, and we got into a little bit of a 1v1 at one point. And he was blasting that beam at me, and I was running a circle around him to avoid it. And so on my screen, his beam was trailing behind me by like a meter or so. It was not anywhere close to touching me. But he was saying on his screen, he was leading in front of me with it. So it's like it's a total mismatch as far as the server goes. So I mean, that's just an example. You have no chance, even when you think you're hitting someone, you're not.
Who knows with that thing? It's a very seems like a very tricky ability to make work.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if you get the jump on some people and blast it into a group while they're CC'd and they're low on stamina and they can't break, you might get lucky once in a while. But I've never seen it in any BGs that I've been in. I've never seen it really do much.
Yeah, me either.
Super fun in PvE though, just blasting mobs down. I just use it as my spammable. Like when I'm doing my daily dungeons to level up my Undaunted, I just take my spammable off, and that's my spammable. It's not a bad spammable.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and I did say Necro LOL. I wrote that down on the outline just because, man, there are not any Necros in this game right now. Like you go to a BG, you do not see any Necromancers, not a single one.
And we've talked about this a little bit, but Arcanists have a lot of our like kind of hopes or ideas to like maybe they could do this for Necro. Arcanists kind of swooped in and took them. So
yeah, all the Necro ideas went to Arcanist.
So good luck, Necros. We'll see. Maybe something.
I'm sure their time will come someday, but it'll probably be a while.
It'll come back, Sam. Don't you worry. One day.
All right, so let's talk about some builds. Davies, you got a new build that's in the works. What's going on?
I do.
What do you got going on?
So I've made a new character, a Magicka Warden, the Natural Nord.
Now, I assume you're getting your Mag DK leveled up first before you put all your time into this one.
Not quite. So the Natural Nord, or the nickname that we're going with, also goes by Natty Nord.
Natty Nord.
Old Natty Nord. The Mag DK's coming, but the Magden, the Natural Nord, is already leveled to 50. So I already got it to 50.
All right.
It has passed the Mag DK, but the Mag DK's day. It's coming any day now. But honestly, like I made this character kind of in place. Everybody's making Arcanists and leveling them up, and I made a Magicka Warden. So I am odd in that way, but I really am really excited about what this build's going to be. Pretty much what it is. We've kind of talked and toyed with the idea of what the build of this idea of the build, which is basically using that new Crypt Cannon's Vestment mythic to just make a support build that is all about just giving ultimate to the team. I've always got some sort of wacky ultimate build. Lord of Nords is a ult DK. Always find some way to make a ult builds, all the way back to the Guarplar with my original support character. But kind of the whole idea was to make a support character that is giving great support to the team, great heals to the team, but just shooting ultimate out to the team in an extremely effective way. So we're going to I'm kind of excited to discuss this with you, because we're kind of going to openly theory craft here a little bit, but because it's just initial idea. So I've got the character leveled up to 50. I've got the skill points, but I don't have all the gear put together. So I'm still kind of toying with the gear ideas or exactly what I want to do. But kind of what the parts that I have locked in is that I'm doing 5-piece Drake's Rush. What that set is that when you bash an enemy, you give your entire team major heroism, and it's got pretty good uptime on that. So basically, the uptime, when you bash someone, you give your team major heroism for 12 seconds, and then it can occur every 18 seconds. So pretty good uptime on major heroism. And then that combined with the Crypt Cannon's Vestment, basically my team's got major heroism, I've got major heroism. Crypt Cannon's Vestment's giving me minor heroism. I am a Nord, and so the other cool idea that I like with this build is that I'm going to go with the bear ult. Since the bear ult, to have the bear out there costs 0, and the actual ult ability is their kind of execute ability. So I kind of looked up on the forums to make sure this would work, and it seemed, and people have said it does, is that I want to have the bear out there basically for free, so I can still have my ult ability. But then the bear's execute is what I'm going to utilize to give my team the ult for the Crypt Cannon's Vestment. So kind of get the bear for free.
Idea. That's a great little hack, because you still have your ultimate.
Yeah, still have the bear out there doing things, but still shoving ultimate to the team. So basically, just with that part of it, the entire team's got a major heroism. I've got major, minor heroism, and a Nord, and then every time I've got ultimate, I'm giving my ultimate divided up among the team. So I think with that ultimate push to them, plus the major heroism, I think it's going to be pretty effective to give ult out to the team. Sam is asking if there's blood spawn on there as well. Potentially. We'll play through a couple kind of build ideas. So option 1 is the 5-piece Drake's Rush, 1-piece Magma, the Crypt Cannon's Vestment, which is a chest piece, which is a little unique to fit in there. And then I've contemplated, I know you'll be a fan of this one, I've contemplated doing Wretched for the back bar, and then the Maelstrom Resto front bar. So a whole lot of sustain, just sustain for days to help with the support and to constantly be feeding support to the team. Plus the giving out the ult to the rest of the team. So I think that one would be a kind of a good spot where the support would still be good. I'd still be able to keep up good heal numbers, but also be able to give ult out to the team as well. The other option that I've looked at is swapping out that both the Wretched and the Maelstrom Resto for just going full Arcasis, front bar and back bar. And Arcasis is the set that every time you drink a potion, you give your team, I can't remember how much it is, but I think it's like 44 ultimate.
Sounds right.
And the cooldown on that's every 30 seconds, but it has to be when you drink a potion, so it'd be every 45 seconds for me. I don't have anything reducing potion timers, but it's 44 ultimate. And that was kind of my initial idea, but I've actually really pulled back from that idea, because I think with the major heroism and me giving out my ult, I think that's going to be enough ult gen. I feel like that's going to be quite a bit, a pretty massive difference. And so I feel like this Arcasis would just kind of be, it would be stacking the ult, but I feel like with that setup, I wouldn't be able to do really good heals. Like my sustain would probably be bad. My heals would probably not be able to be kept up. And so I wouldn't be able to kind of do the support part, which is obviously an important part of the build.
Joral's
And
giving you the thumbs up. He agrees. I think he was talking about that the other night too. Like if you invest too much in the ultimate thing, then everything else is going to suck. You know,
yeah,
you can only
yeah,
go so far.
yeah. Then you lack in the other thing. And then the other option, obviously, is I could just back bar Arcasis and still front bar the Maelstrom Resto. Um, and then kind of what Sam said, another option out there is to go with Bloodspawn in place of the Maelstrom Resto staff, where I could fit the pieces around to where the Drake's Rush could be on just a front bar, and then the Wretched could be on the back bar, or vice versa. But
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
probably Wretched on the back bar, and then that could allow me to have Bloodspawn. And I've thought about that. You know, I love Bloodspawn. It's nice for the ult gen. It's nice for the defense, but um, I don't know if I want to have the front bar, back bar setup. That, you know, we got to remember this. First of all, me going back to a 2-bar build, pretty wild. Okay, there's no Oaken Soul. Crypt Cannons is keeping Oaken Soul off this build, but I think it's going to be one of those options. I haven't finalized anything yet, but the one that I've really kind of think I'm zoning in on is the Wretched back bar with the Maelstrom Resto front bar. Just for the amount of sustain it will allow, my heals will be really good. And then kind of the abilities for the healing, I'm going Polar Wind. So I'm stacking my health really high. Polar Wind's an unbelievable heal. Radiating Regen, because it'll have the Maelstrom Resto. And then I'm really excited about this. I'm going to use the Bursting Vines. And
yeah,
so
nice.
just kind of bounce around to from teammate to teammate. Just feeding ult, you know, have the bear for a body block, throwing heals, but just kind of using those vines to kind of, you know, mimic any speed that my team has. On the defensive side, I'm actually doing the crystallized slab. Since I already have the major and minor heroism, I can actually do the crystallized slab, which is kind of that's a great ability. So no complaints
Great.
on
Yeah,
that. And then
right.
I'm doing the deceptive predator wings that give me the minor evasion. And so that pretty good defense, and then, you know, speed, like I said, using those bursting vines, the deceptive predator wings for speed. So I think that it's going to have pretty good speed, and then still sticking with that overall strategy of just feeding all my allies as much ult as possible, but still doing pretty strong heals. I'm pretty pumped for what I think this build could be. I think it's going to be pretty neat and pretty fun to see.
Nice. Man, I'm glad you finally made a Magden. How much
It's
playtime you think your Templar healer is going to get going forward?
Man, I don't know. It's going to be interesting because they're both such similar ideas, but one is given full weapon damage and one is given full ult. So I don't know. I don't know if it'll depend like on the team comp that night, or if one's actually going to be, you know, proved to be quite a bit better. So I'm a little worried about that. I'm a little worried about my Magplar healer finding its way on the shelf, but I hope that's not the case.
I wonder if they have close to the same like personal survivability now, because Templar got some survivability buffs, some pretty big ones this patch.
Yeah, that's true.
I know they seem pretty hard to kill in my experience going up against them.
I've actually been playing with my Templar healer more than usual here lately, and the BG results have been good. It's been doing pretty well.
Yeah, I've played with Betsy a few times. She's not a healer, but she's a Templar, and feels good. You know, still Betsy's still awesome. Still good. Like I think I've been playing a bunch of Arcanist lately, like several days in a row, and I was like, man, I gotta play some Betsy. But you know what it was? I was talking to Joral at the time in voice chat, and I logged in with Betsy to give him a vampire bite, is what it was. And I was about to go to bed, and I was like, well, I can't just log on with Betsy and not do a
And
BG.
not do a BG.
So I went ahead and did one and got a cool little 11-0 real quick, no big deal.
Just a quick BG for old Betsy. Just the usual results.
Yep. Still got it. Cool, man. Anything else to say about the Magden?
No,
Natty Nord.
I'm guessing you're the old Natty Nord. I'm guessing your vote's probably the Wretched back bar, Maelstrom Resto front bar setup.
I mean, that wouldn't be bad. Yeah, probably rather than front barring the Arcasis
yeah, basically Wretched in place of Arcasis is kind of how that would be.
I'm kind of with you. I would not want to be thinking about what bar I'm on to drink potions.
Yes, that makes me nervous.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be doing that. I'm with you right there. And I play 2 bars all the time.
Yeah. Plus, like on a support character, like more sustain is only just like that's just equates
Yeah.
out to tankiness. Like you can't. I feel like you can't have too much sustain on a support character.
Yeah, absolutely. There are those moments where like the moment you run out of magicka is when your team dies.
Yep, that's when you die and the whole team wipes.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I have a new build to talk about as well. It's the new class. It's my Arcanist. I mentioned him briefly on the last episode. His name is Randolph. For now, that may change in the future. I'm not married to that name. That's just kind of the first thing I thought of. And
Randolph.
and kind of like your Magden, this build is very much in progress. Nothing's locked in. Although I don't know, I feel like I am kind of zeroing in on at least the bar setup that I like. I'm pretty sure the bar setup is pretty darn close to where it's going to end up, but the gear I'm not sure. Not that, but the gear I'm using is pretty good though. It may end up. I'm kind of on the fence about it. So it's a build that was just thrown together. I got this dude leveled up to 50. I was like, all right, it's time to do some PvP. Let me just see what I got in the bank. Throw it on him. Just get a quick build that I know it's going to be good enough just to have a little fun and do a little something. And we'll figure out the real build later. Well, it's later, and I'm still using that temporary build, which is Briarheart on the front bar with a lightning staff, Wretched Vitality on the back bar with a bow, Gaze of Sithis, Mythic Helm, 3 Agility on the jewelry. It's 5 medium. It's all well fitted, all bloodthirsty. I made him a dark elf, and it's a stamina build. All attributes are in stamina. And there's that whole like dynamic resource cost thing. So he still plays like a mage. Like I originally wanted a Magicka Arcanist, but because of how everything works, like I just changed my attribute points to stamina, and it's still the same build otherwise. I don't change a thing about the bar setup. I still have a lightning staff, and it still basically functions the same way, but I just have a little bit more comfortable time with defense, basically. Uh, so Serpent Moonstone for a little bit of extra sustain. In the combo, I just talked about some of the abilities I recommend using for this for the Arcanist. So I don't use the beam. What I do is I have that fulminating rune on the back bar at that AoE sticky dot. So I start on the back bar with the bow and do a light attack into the fulminating rune. And then I bar swap, hit them with the tentacle to get that abyssal ink on them. I spam the rune blades a couple of times, and then I put the fear on them, and then I go back to spamming the tentacle to execute them. And remember, you got that inspired scholarship, your weapon damage buff. When you cast that thing, it's making all your class abilities do extra damage every 3 seconds as well. That fulminating rune, that sticky dot, it actually has a 6-second delayed burst attached to it as well. It's not a huge burst. I think for me, the tooltip is like 7 or 8K, something like that. Not huge. But that with the inspired scholarship and all the other stuff that kind of lines up at the same time, it ends up being pretty decent burst. And that tentacle slaps, dude. Also the rune blades, like a lot of people complain about it because it's those 3 projectiles in a row and they travel pretty darn slow through the air, and that is true. But when they all hit, it's a lot of damage. I think mine's like 13, 14K tooltip for for an instant cast spammable. It's pretty darn good.
That's high.
Yeah. And then when I have what I call the squid ultimate, the Watcher tentacle guy, of course, just put that on people as often as possible.
Oh yeah.
I mentioned the beam earlier, but also I tried out the healing beam as well. It's also a no-go. People move around way too much, especially when they're low on health. They panic, they start dodging and running and stuff. You're not going to heal anybody with that beam. So neither beam. Don't even mess with them in PvP. There may be situations where they could be usable, but probably not in BGs. So yeah, that's the offense. It's fulminating rune, hit them with the tentacle, spam the rune blades a couple of times, and then fear them, and then back to the tentacle, and you'll be hitting them with that tentacle right about the time that fulminating rune is exploding. And there's all this kind of other damage happening behind the scenes as well, as long as your buffs are up. As far as defense goes, it's just vigor and that impervious rune ward damage shield. That is basically all you need to stay alive. I do have the evolving rune mend. That's the class spammable heal. It works the same way as the damage spammable. It's like the 3 rapid successive heals all at once or all in a row. But I never use it on myself. I only use that to heal allies. It's the only reason I have it slotted. So it's actually an optional ability. I might end up putting something else there, but I really like being able to heal people with it. But it's difficult to use. It's not an instant heal. It's like a very short heal over time is what it is.
Hmm.
So like you know, like if you're on your Templar and you see someone who's like at 10% health, you get a good Breath of Life crit on them, and they got a full health bar just in
Yeah,
a blink
they're
of an
set.
eye. You
They're
know,
set.
that is not gonna. That person is dead meat if you're if it's an Arcanist that's trying to heal them up, because those rune blades are going to take forever to get there. They travel so slow, and then once they do get there, it's 1, 2, 3. You know, you don't even get them all at once. They're just going to get executed. It's not going to save them the same way a Breath of Life or a Shrewd Offering or something like that can.
So have you done that heal? Like people are like, say you have a teammate, they're running away, you see them at low health, you throw the heal at them, but before the runes get to them, they're dead.
That I have had that happen. Yeah, it doesn't always. I mean, oftentimes I am able to save them, you know, because they're dodging around and avoiding executes and stuff, and they'll manage to stay alive long enough to get the heal. But in those real crutch moments, like where a Templar would have instantly saved that person or a Warden, not the case with the Arcanist. But I think the way the Arcanist would go about that would be to cast a damage shield on them, and that's kind of the clutch thing that they could do there. So I think if you're trying to make an Arcanist support focused build, it's going to be all about those damage shields. They really don't have great healing. They have amazing damage shields and just a little bit of healing, basically. And then that gibbering shelter ultimate for emergencies, that's super duper clutch. And it you know, that's the morph that as long as you're taking damage, it's refreshing a damage shield on your allies every second. I think it's giving that to yourself as well. It looks like it is to me. So anytime I cast that thing, I basically can't die.
Huh.
And I gotta say, the fashion's pretty on point. His look has evolved a few times, but I'm pretty happy with it by now. I got him looking pretty good. I don't know how to describe it, but I just wanted to mention that he's looking good.
I think I've seen his most recent look. He is looking good. I didn't even mention old Natty Nord's fashion.
Oh, he's looking good too. He's looking real good.
I like his setup. He's looking nice. He's looking nice.
Yeah. He definitely, yeah, he's the perfect, like he looks like a Nord. He also looks like a Warden. It's like he looks natural.
He's old Natty Nord.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got some emails to get into. Scrollandpodcast@gmail.com is the email address. If you'd like to send us an email, you can ask us questions. You can make us suggestions for the show. Tell us a joke, say hello, shout out to a friend. Scrollandpodcast@gmail.com. First email comes from TJ. TJ says, I'm a new listener and absolutely love the podcast. It's my favorite ESO podcast. Keep up the great work, guys. Thanks, TJ. That's it. No question or anything. Just a little bit of encouragement. Always great to hear.
That's just TJ being nice.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks, TJ. He didn't have to be nice like that, but he did. Next email comes from Grizzly Khan. Shout out to Grizzly Khan.
Shout out Grizzly Khan.
So Grizzly Khan picked up on that buff, marry, nerf game that Pellinal wrote in last week. Grizzly's calling it buff slot nerf, which that makes sense. I get that. So he has a bunch of examples that he came up with. So we're gonna take a minute here to go through these and see what we want to buff, what we want to slot, what we want to nerf. So our favorite mythics is the first one. So the Sithis Helm, Oaken Soul, and Stormweaver. Buff, slot, or nerf? You go first, Davius. What do you think?
All right, this is a tricky one.
That is tough.
It's a tricky one because, like, on a lot of these that we're going to talk about, like, the nerf was the tough part for me because some of these, like, I listed nerf and I don't necessarily think they need to be nerf, but I like that I had to fit them in somewhere. So on this one,
pick one. Yeah,
I went buff Stormweaver.
Okay.
Slot Oaken Soul, and this is true. You know, it would be very easy for me to say to buff Oaken Soul, but I truly believe Oaken Soul is in a good spot where it's at. So I went buff Stormweaver, slot Oaken Soul, nerf Sithis.
Nerf Sithis.
And I mainly went with that because I went with kind of a popularity. I feel like Sithis is probably the most used of those mythics, and so I'm big on if it's like the more popularity it has, like Let's do something to make the other, to promote other sets to be used.
I think. Let's see. What do I think? It's tough, man. This is a
It
hard
is
game.
tough. It's hard. It's a toughie.
Yeah, I think I would buff Stormweaver and slot Sithis and nerf Oakensoul. That's what I would do.
Oh.
Oakensoul has so many things. You could like nerf that and no one would even notice. Just take the minor vital or minor mending out of it. No one's even going to notice.
I would
You
notice.
wouldn't
I would know. I would know.
Yeah.
Every day I log in, I count all the buffs. I count all of them in a row just to
Where's
make sure.
my minor mending?
Wait a minute. I am one short today.
Yeah, but we're both in agreement. Buff Stormweaver. That's
Yes.
one like nobody uses that.
Yeah, and I think it's good, but I think it needs. If you buff it a little bit, I think it would promote the use of it, and I'm always for that.
Just the that 300 Magicka recovery, just bump that up a little bit. I think might be enough.
Yeah, might be.
All right, Grizzly's next one is Class Warfare: Dragon Knights, Wardens, or Sorcerers. Buff, marry, nerf. What do you think, Davies?
So I'm going this one now. Now, I was trying to be unbiased in the first one. Now I'm going to sound super biased.
This one's
in
tough.
This one. But I'm going to go. This one's very tough. But I'm going to go buff DK. Slot the Sork, so leave the Sork alone, and then nerf Warden. I don't think that DKs need to be buffed. I will say that.
Wow,
I will say that right now. I don't think DKs need to be buffed, but I think Sorks absolutely don't need to be buffed. I think that the way their kit is right now, that they don't necessarily need to be nerfed either. And I still think Warden overall is kind of the best all-around class. So that's how they ended. That's how they ended in the nerf for me. Oh boy, we got riots in the chat.
Warden main Jorl says, "Now we riot."
I'm interested to hear your select. This is a tough one. This is a toughie.
I am going to say buff Sork, which I never thought those words would come out of my mouth.
Oh.
But they need a burst heal that isn't the bird. I will say that. Nerf DK, keep Warden.
Ooh. Ouch. So you went full different from mine.
Yeah, because I kind of like where Wardens are at right now. They're super strong, but what they're good at is basically just providing a really strong foundation for a team. And like 1v1, a Warden's no big deal. I think the way in which they're overpowered is kind of a healthy thing. Now that the frost spam thing is in the past, DKs are too strong. Okay, they're just a little too spicy. They can be toned down a little bit.
The biggest thing with the nerf Warden to me is just the immediate nerf would be to get rid of the frost staff. Like change that ability up.
Yes. Yeah, that doesn't necessarily need to be a nerf. We just need to make a lateral move so that we can unstaple the frost staff from their hand.
Yeah.
That's a dumb thing. Yeah. So, all right, there's that one. Delay cast spammables is the next one. So we're talking about Crystal Frags, Snipe, and Dizzying Swing or Wrecking Blow, either morph.
So, am I going first or you want to go first on this one?
You go first.
Okay.
It gives me time to think about it.
The chat to riot for my answers. So anybody that plays with me knows I'm a brawler at heart. Like I want to be up in the fight. So I'm going to go with buff Dizzying Swing. And I'll say Dizzying Swing specifically because I think Wrecking Blow is actually in a semi-decent place. But I'm going to say buff Dizzying Swing because
D-Swing, okay.
There's just a special place in my heart for the old school days where Dizzying Swing was just everybody was out there D-swinging. I mean, it was just the old days.
That was a great time, man.
Man, those were the true brawling days. I mean, everybody had this massive two-hander and we were just beating beating the tar out of each other.
The Dizzy Onslaught Executioner meta, back when Dizzy still knocked people up in the air.
Yes.
Oh, man. Back when you could still like dodge cancel ultimates and stuff, man, it was a different game.
So I'm going to go buff Dizzying Swing. I'm going to slot Snipe, keep Snipe where it is, and I'm actually going to go with the nerf for Crystal Frags. And I don't necessarily think the Crystal Frags needs a nerf, but if those are my three, then Crystal Frags ended with the nerf.
KDMS says D-Swing users are real Chads. Uncle Sam says you're spot on with your picks there.
Woo! I won Sam back over. All
right. I'm going to say always nerf Snipe anytime we have the opportunity, so we're going to go ahead and nerf Snipe.
That hurts the point blank snipe, though. You can't have that.
There's going to be casualties. And then I think Crystal Frags could certainly use a buff. It gets dodged a lot. You only get to cast it. You typically only cast it when you get the special proc. I think it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to buff Crystal Frags. D-Swing, I think, is pretty decent ability. I think it's all right as it is.
I just want to point out, this is two in a row you want Sorks buffed. Just want to point it out. Right now, episode 104, Ket, releasing, updating news. Ket says buff Sorks and their abilities.
I've actually secretly been a Sork main this whole time. Just been lying to you. All right. Now we have ultimates that buff your damage. So Onslaught, Dawnbreaker, or Incap. What do you think, Davies?
This one's easy for me. Once again, Brawler at Heart. Buff Onslaught. No, it's just not used anymore. Would love to see Onslaught get a little bit of buff. Slot the Donnie. Dawnbreakers are that's in a great spot right now. Not too strong. Takes you have to aim them well, like they miss. But they're a great ability. And then I'm going to nerf Incap every single chance I can get.
It was just buffed. You're just going to take that buff away?
Take it away. Nerf it. Nerf it.
I think I totally agree with that. Let's buff Onslaught. Donnie's a great ultimate as it is. Always nerf the Nightblade. Okay, the next one is Fallen Mythics. We have Ring of the Wild Hunt, the Torque of Tonal Constancy, and Pearls of Elnafay.
Ooh.
Which one's the Pearls? Which one's the Pearls do? Is that the teabag one?
No, Pearls of Elnafay is the one that when you use a healing ability and you have you have so little of your resources, when you're under a percentage of your resources, you generate ultimate. So you can if you don't have enough healing, you can just spam that and your ultimate will just climb.
Yeah, that's right. I remember now. And you used regen because it's really cheap, right? To proc that.
Yep. I loved.
Okay, I remember now.
So this is another tough one.
So we have Wild Hunt, Torque, and Pearls. Sorry, just reminding.
Yeah. I don't feel good about it, but this is what I have to put them each in a category. So this is the way it came out. I'm gonna buff Pearls because I love ult gen items. And I think the idea of Pearls is there. I just think it could maybe be tinkered with to get it maybe a little bit more popular. But I do really like the idea of the Pearls of Elnafay. I'm going to slot Wild Hunt. I think it's still a great mythic, not used near as much, but it's still great. You can throw one ring on there and you just have a super speedy character. I think it's in a good spot. And so I hate to admit this because I love the Torque, but it is the one that ends up being nerfed. I don't know how you could nerf the Torque. It's in such a bad spot, but I guess you could. If I have to nerf one, I'm going to nerf the Torque because, let's be honest, the Torque has been replaced by Wretched Vitality. Wretched Vitality is just a better version of the Torque, and you can put it on your back bar. And then you're freed up to use other mythics that give you more value. Yes. Yeah. So I guess the Torque, the nerf for that one, it just needs to be potentially deleted.
This one's tough because I want to say buff all three because they all three. I guess that's why Grizzly's calling them Fallen Mythics.
The Fallen Mythics for sure.
Well, let's see. My heart wants to buff Wild Hunt, and the reason is because speed is what I like more than anything else in my builds, and I can never justify equipping Ring of the Wild Hunt in my builds. As someone who loves being fast, that just never finds its way, and I don't think it quite offers enough.
Yeah.
Even though it seems like a lot, I think it needs to be a little bit more to be worthwhile. The Torque is actually pretty darn dense. It doesn't get used a lot, but it actually is dense. I think you could nerf it and it would still be very usable. So let's just go ahead and give that the nerf, even though I wouldn't actually want to nerf it, but we gotta pick one.
Gotta pick one.
And we'll just keep Pearls how it is, I guess.
The old Pearls of Elnafay.
Yeah. They could all use a buff in reality.
Yes, they absolutely could.
All right, next one is delayed burst abilities. So we have Sub Assault or the other morph, Deep Fissure, Deep Breath, the DK ability, and Blast Bones or either morph. So Sub Assault, Deep Breath, and Blast Bones. What do you think?
Oh boy, I need Sam to have earmuffs on this one. I need him to have earmuffs.
Yeah,
oh boy! Oh boy! So he can't even. He's so enraged he can't even spell right. Oh boy! So I'm gonna go with buff on Deep Breath. I love the Deep Breath ability. I gotta give shout out to Uncle Sam. He's the one that showed me the Deep Breath ability. It's fantastic. I love it. But I do think it could use a couple. I'm not looking at this from like a full class perspective. I'm just looking at the specifics of the ability. So I would say buff Deep Breath, slot Sub Assault, and nerf that Blast Bones. Nerf that Blast Bones.
Doesn't it seem ridiculous to be asking for a nerf to Necromancer?
Oh no!
But if anything of theirs could use a nerf, though, right?
It's the Blast Bones.
Just delete the freaking class already.
Oh man! It's so good.
Okay, I will throw Sam a bone. I'm gonna say let's keep Blast Bones how it is. It's basically Necromancer's only good ability at this point. And it's not super reliable in like a BG situation. It often does not make it to your target. So let's keep Blast Bones. Let's nerf Deep Breath. DKs are strong enough as they are without it. And Sub Assault can be buffed.
Yeah, I can see that. The Sub Assault, I feel like, it's lost a lot of its potential with that new timing thing, especially the Magicka version. You got to wait 6 seconds for that. I mean, 6 seconds is an eternity in a BG. And to wait that long, it's kind of messed it up. It's messed up the flow of that ability for sure. Yeah,
for sure. They added that second hit and then kind of spread the damage out across those hits, and it's not as impactful as it used to be. So that feels good to me. Blast Bone stays. We nerf Deep Breath. We buff Sub Assault.
A little different than mine. Little different than mine.
Next category is Burst Heals. So we have the Matriarch Sorcerer ability, we have Nightblade's Shrewd Offering, and we have the Warden's Soothing Spores. Burst Heals there.
Okay.
Can you imagine trying to make a Necro build work with a nerfed Blast Bones? Yeah, I mean, that's like all they have.
I mean, the class is horrible. One more nerf to them, what's it going to hurt, Let's keep the other, let's not bring the other classes down to their level,
yeah, take over the team, Sam. Come on, you're already down there.
Come on.
Matriarch, Shrewd Offering, Soothing Spores. What do you think, Davius?
So I'm going to go buff Soothing Spores just because I feel like that's an ability that really isn't used. Yeah, it's just not ever used.
Why do that when Polar Wind exists?
Yeah, exactly. And so I would say buff Soothing Spores. It's a cool idea. You have an opportunity to have a stamina-based, class heal, like a burst heal.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with slot the Matriarch. I think the Matriarch's a very strong heal. It's a good heal.
Yeah.
And nerf Offering. Offering's way too good. There's no way you can convince me a Nightblade needs that strong of a heal. I'm against it.
That strong of a heal for that low of a cost. That's the thing. It's the low cost that really makes it like over the top.
Yes.
I have the exact same answers. Yeah, let's get Soothing Spores on some people's bars. Let's buff that thing. Nerf Shrewd Offering. Always nerf the Nightblade. And Matriarch's a great ability as it is. I'm with you. I think there's maybe only been 2 that we've been like exact the same on.
Yeah, that is true. I think that's only the second one.
Okay, resource boosters. So Markin, Death Dealer's Fet, and Trainee. So basically two mythics or the Trainee set.
So I'm gonna go buff trainee just because really the thing with the trainee is I wish there was some way for it to kind of work like the new Arcanist abilities do. Like if that set was somehow smart enough to give you the resource that you wanted it to, then instead of the 2 slot, always give you Magicka. Like if it
I
somehow
wish they just put the line of stamina first.
well, yeah,
Honestly.
or that, like, yeah, swap the Magicka and stamina. But I just think if there was, it'd be really cool to me if there's a way that the 2-piece would buff, whatever your higher stat was, and then the 3-piece would buff your lower stat or something.
The 1-piece, right? It's just 1-piece gives you the thing, right?
Well, 1-piece gives you the health. The 2-piece, the 2 and 3 is when it gives you the actual resources. I'm gonna go buff trainee. I'm gonna slot Death Dealer's Fet. I think I'm saying it right.
Yes.
This is Grizzly Khan's email, so goodness. Okay, gotta get it right. And then I'm gonna nerf Markin. And I've got to be honest, Death Dealer's Fet and Markin are not mythics that I use, but I feel like the Markin ring is just very
popular.
Very popular. So I'm gonna fall back on what I said earlier. Like, too popular, nerf it. Make it less popular.
So I'm going to flip-flop Death Dealer and Markin. So, yeah, I think go ahead and... did you say buff trainee?
Buff trainee.
I think buff trainee. I want to nerf Death Dealer. I think it's just a little too juicy. I think Markin's okay.
Okay.
Okay, next one is Stoonsed Mythics. So mythics that have been nerfed severely.
Super nerfs.
Jorl wasn't happy with my last
one. Getting the side eyes.
Death Dealer's a little too juicy, Jorl. Okay, so mythics that have received the Stoons treatment. They've been nerfed too hard. So we have Velothi Urmod Mage's Amulet. That's the new one that was hilariously nerfed. Thracian Stranglers, or the Esoteric Environment Greaves, the other new one.
So
what do you think?
I've got to go with buff Thracian. For anybody that remembers, the Thracian Stranglers went through such a saga of nerfs and buffs, and it was an unbelievable saga of changes, to the point that what they are now isn't even remotely the same item of what they originally were.
It's been reinvented a couple of times.
Yes, and so I've got to go buff Thracian. A part of me will always hold out to that Thracian Stranglers will be a usable mythic one day. I'm going to go slot the Velothi. I still think you can get use out of it just for the crit damage. Or is it crit chance or crit damage? I can't remember what it gives you. But I think that there's still a way to potentially
you get penetration and... Okay, yeah, I think the penetration is the main thing you get in PvP with it.
Yeah, you can still get something out of it. And I will always nerf Esoteric. Anything that has that design of just... tanky, unkillable, stand there. Nope, I'm out. That always nerf that.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah, Esoteric is the one that can be nerfed there easily. I think I agree with you. Thracian, man, let's make Thracian good. Like for once and for all. Finally, please, let's do it. And then Velothi, I guess it can stay.
It's not good, but you can at least get something out of it. Thracian, you throw Thracian on right now, you're going to get yourself like murdered. It will kill you.
Thracian's a challenge. Yeah, yeah, you're right. I actually do. Yeah, Velothi should be buffed in reality, but that doesn't work with the rules of the game. And then basic damage sets. Last one, we have Briarheart, Burning Spellweave, and then Grizzly told us to choose a third one, and we chose 7th Legion. What do you think?
Yep. So I'm gonna need Uncle Sam to get earmuffs again. I need him to have the earmuffs. I'm gonna go buff 7th Legion. I still hold I like the idea of 7th Legion because the proc for it is every 15 seconds, so it's got 100% uptime, and with Vigor. I don't know if they fixed it, but you should be able to use Vigor, and every time you use Vigor, it should proc this set to give you the damage buff. Or the damage. Yeah, the damage.
I think I remember seeing that in patch notes that they did fix that
nice.
At some point.
So I like that idea. So I would say buff 7th Legion. It needs a little bit more weapon damage. It's just too low. I think it used to be better because it has the health recovery, but Health recovery is just not what it was. So I'm going to say buff 7th Legion. I'm going to slot Briarheart. And that leaves me to nerf Burning Spellweave. And here's my thoughts on Burning Spellweave. Burning Spellweave still, like, I hate to say nerf a classic set that is, like, through all of this time, it is still held on, and it is still a very good set. But I've always struggled with Burning Spellweave, that if you have a Mag DK, that it's like, you have to have Burning Spellweave. And so any sets that are like, like this is the plug-in set, I always have trouble with. So I would say nerf Burning Spellweave.
Yeah, this one's a tough. I mean, I think 7th Legion is an easy one. Buff that for sure. Mm-hmm. But then the other two are tough. Briarheart and Burning Spellweave. They're both just pretty solid.
Yeah.
But I think I would buff Briarheart. It could use a little of the heal that you get from Briarheart is nothing. Like, I think I was looking at my combat metrics. I got like my average heal from Briarheart was like 24 or something like that. So yeah, buff Briarheart, nerf Burning Spell, or no, keep Briarheart, nerf Burning Spellweave, buff 7th Legion.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you very much, Grizzly Con. Great email.
Yeah, that was great. That was a lot of fun.
So next email comes from Wanna Buy My Dog. Shout out to Wanna Buy My Dog, one of our Discord friends. Dog says, if there was a slap skill line in the game, what would the abilities look like? For example, an ult could be front hand backhand. An ult could be front hand backhand, referring to the Key and Peel skit. You slap someone so hard all their gear gets removed and they have to leave combat to re-equip it. So I'll go first on this one, Davius, because Dog is clearly wrong. The ultimate has to be the E Honda 100 hands from Street Fighter 2. I mean, that's just obvious. We're having
Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Super Nintendo.
Oh, dude, huge Street Fighter fan. Love it. That new Street Fighter, was it Street Fighter 6, I think, that just came out? Looks pretty darn good. But yeah, the E Honda 100 hands, that's your ultimate right there. Nice. Then you just have your basic slap as your spammable, and like if you do it in like cast within 1 second or something like that, then it'll do the alternating front hand, backhand. Maybe it can gain damage with successive casts, like if you keep doing it,
Nice.
It kind of builds up. And I think it's such a like insulting way to hit someone, right? So I think it should inflict a new status effect called Demoralize, which prevents the target from attacking you for 1 second.
Nice.
Very nice. And then, so then you can do like a double ear clap, like you're doing like cymbals around somebody's ear. Yep, okay, so nice. That's a melee range, single target, unblockable stun. Mm-hmm. Kind of like a fossilized kind of thing, right? Because you can imagine that'd be pretty disorienting, right? Someone claps you around the ears.
Oh, absolutely. That's a good one.
That's going to stun you. Next one I have is a butt slap.
Oh,
all right.
Nice.
So you can slap yourself or a teammate on the rear, and it generates an aura of goodwill and camaraderie to your group.
Hey, don't they granting that new trial set gives you some sort of bonus like that, right? You can give you that same buff.
Yeah, goodwill and camaraderie, which grants you some buffs. I don't know. We'd figure out what buffs it would give you, and some sort of heal at the same time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then you could have a AOE spammable, which would just be the windmill hands. You just do the windmill arms swinging in the air.
Nice.
That's my skill line. That's what I have. Those are my ideas.
That is fantastic. That is. I would immediately start leveling that skill line.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Very good. Very good. I kind of did the same thing. The 5 abilities plus the ult.
Okay.
So I went with just the classic, the backhand. That's your slap spammable. Probably has an immobilize, to go with it, but it's just the backhand. And then I've got the deflecting, the deflecting slap, when somebody comes to slap you and you throw your arm up in a deflecting way.
Okay.
So that's some sort of shield or deflection type ability, but sure. That's your defensive ability. And then I've got the two-handed slap, when you put your hands together and really hit them with the two-handed slap. That's your execute slap right there. That's just you're going all out. Your executability in the skill line there. And then I've got the love tap. This is similar to your butt slap, but this is the love tap, and this is your heal ability. The old love tap. That's your slap healing ability. It's gonna have maybe some buffs, a little bit of heal to it. And then I've got the wind up slap, and this is where you really you take a couple steps back and wind up into it and hit them with the slap. That's clearly your delayed burst slap.
Okay,
right there.
All right.
That's your delayed burst. And then the ult, for my ult slap, I've got the full, dad joke, old school children's play. What's that on your chest? Where you point to their chest, they look down, and you just smack them as they look down. That's your ultimate ability. They fall for it. So what I think this should do, because anytime you land one of those, everybody around is giving you, everybody's hitting everybody notices. Everybody sees your shame. So it's an AoE stun. It's taken everybody's attention in the area, and then it's just massive single target damage because the amount of shame when you can land that on somebody, there's just no recovery.
Gerald just had a great one in the chat. He said, spit slap. Enemies hit gain major berserk, major and minor vulnerability. You spit on your hand and slap them. Yeah. So it gives them major and minor vulnerability, but also major berserk because they're all pissed off that you spit on their face. That's great.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
That's great. I love that.
Good.
One.
That's so good.
I love the Looney Tunes ideas for this. That's great.
I'm reading Uncle Sam's.
Ult says, the ring hand. Slowly add rings to your fingers, and when done, smack the something out of your opponent. That sounds pretty good. Yeah, the ring hand. You turn it so that the gemstone is facing palm down.
Oh yeah.
So when you slap them, slap them on top of the head with it. Just like my grandpa used to do. Anyway, thanks, Want to Buy My Dog. That's fun. That's a fun email.
That's a great one.
Next email comes from JJ82. JJ says, hey guys, I recently found your podcast and I really enjoy it. I've listened to all your back catalog and it has gotten me motivated to try the PvP side of ESO. I've been playing ESO for several years, mostly on the PvE side of things, as I don't really understand the PvP side of it. For example, my main is a high elf, Oaken Soul Magplar with Hexos' Ward and Pillar of Nirn with 4,800 spell damage, unbuffed, and about 11k penetration. Is this good for PvP, or what changes should I make? I'd like to be able to do Cyrodiil, mostly solo, and be effective in BGs. Is there ability you would recommend to someone just starting out in PvP? I'm open to any class, as I don't really have a clue how to be effective at building a PvP character. Any help will be greatly appreciated. Thanks, Jay. So yeah, I think we can definitely try to help with that. Davis, do you have any ideas? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways to answer this. One, like if you really like the Templar class, then there's definitely a way that, you can absolutely do that. I think Oaken Soul is a great way to go in PvP. I've mentioned it multiple times. Like, I lean on Oaken Soul a lot. Like, I have limited playtime with how much time I can play and how much real life kind of pulls me away. And Oaken Soul is a great balancer where I can kind of, low ceiling, but high floor. And I absolutely lean on Oaken Soul for that. So I definitely think you can, if you like Oaken Soul, you can definitely go with that build. On your current build, probably the biggest thing I would say is just that Hexos Ward. We talk about this a lot, but damage shields, outside of what we just said about the Arcanist, they're a little bit unique in this, but damage shields in PvP are really a struggle. They get a 50% nerf to all damage shields, and so it's very difficult to make damage shields effective in PvP, especially BG. So I think you'd probably swap that Hexos Ward set out with probably something a little more damage focus or something along those regards. But probably the biggest thing I would say is if you're wanting to go into PvP and have kind of just good success and have fun and get a lot of kills, is I'll defer to Uncle Sam's Sam Sork build. We talk about it a lot on the podcast, but you can kind of make your own version of that build if you have a Sork, and it really does. You can take that build into BGs, and you will immediately start getting kills. And it's a good build. It's a good build to kind of go into BGs and have success, and not get completely demoralized if you get tough BGs. It kind of leads you and gets you a taste of that success, and so you can kind of start down the road of PvP and BGs.
Sam in the chat, he says, opinion 30k HP, major evasion, vampire stage 3, add vigor in the bubble, and a burst heal and the beam. And you basically have a viable PvP build for your Templar there. Yeah, I'd say that's all great advice. I'll say the very best PvP build is the one that you feel most comfortable with. There are certain classes that are stronger than others, but that is something that is always changing, and whoever's on the top right now, they're not going to be there forever, and there will come a time that your class is on top. And if you're maining that class and you're having good success with that class already, and then they find themselves on top, guess who's really on top then,
Yeah.
So every class is viable. Every single class is completely viable. Even the lowly necromancer can do very well in the right hands, as long as you just understand what the class is capable of, understand what your limitations are, have realistic expectations. Don't expect a Nightblade to perform the way a DK does. Don't expect a DK to perform the way a sorcerer does. Those kinds of things. I will also criticize your gear just a little bit. I would use this combat metrics add-on. If you don't have it yet, install that. Do some PvP and see how much you're getting out of that Pillar of Nirn set. I suspect that that's not getting a lot of. It's not putting out a lot of damage for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you may just want some different gear there. There's a lot of great gear. Just one quick example build I can give you that I think would be totally great. It would be like a Wretched Vitality back bar, Order's Wrath front bar, Sithis Helm, Sugar Skull's food, use a Sustained Mundus Stone like the Serpent, One Piece Magma, 2 Trainee, Bloodthirsty Jewelry, do well-fitted armor or sturdy if you prefer to block rather than dodge. Those things, you put all those things together on a build, it doesn't matter what the class is or what else is going on in the build, that's going to be a solid build. We were talking about this in the Discord last night with some friends, with Jorl and Sam and some people. If you have Wretched Vitality, Order's Wrath, Sithis Helm, Sugar Skulls, a Sustained Mundus, One Piece Magma, 2 Trainee, Bloodthirsty Jewelry, well-fitted armor, that's a good build. Right? Like whatever results you get in a BG or whatever, you can't blame it on the build if you have those things there. So that'll do you well. That's just one example, right? That's just one example of something that's going to give you some good stats. Another option would just be like Oakensoul with like Order's Wrath and Gourmand, and use a bow as your main weapon. The reason for the bow mainly is because it's ranged, and it also lets you have major expedition without taking up a bar slot because of that last passive. That's what's really nice about using it on an Oakensoul build. Orders and Gourmand, that's going to be a ton of damage between those two, and then Oakensoul is going to give you even more damage, plus some really good survivability. It's going to simplify your play style. One concern I would have about an Oakensoul setup, especially if you're just dipping into PvP for the first time, is that could end up being a crutch that's difficult to do away with later on. If you're used to just never ever having to manage your buff timers at all, and it's just not something your brain ever thinks about, might be hard to kind of wire that part of your brain back up later when you try a double bar build. Uncle Sam suggests Deadly Strikes as your front bar set. Not a bad idea for using the beam.
Yep, that works well on Templar.
But I mean, at the same time, it doesn't matter what. We could tell you the most OP build on the planet, but there's not going to be any substitute for just getting in there and just dying a bunch and getting some experience and trying to learn from it each time. Nobody jumps in there and is amazing right away. You're gonna die a bunch, and you just have to be willing to laugh at yourself and learn and make tweaks to your build from one encounter to the next. No build that I use is going to work perfectly for you, and vice versa. That's what's great about PvP builds. They're all so personal, and like Uncle Sam, for example, has things that he thinks are mandatory for his build that he can't do without. And I have my own list of things that I think are mandatory for my builds, and it's different from Sam's list. And it's all, everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses, and you just need to try to take advantage of your strengths, play down your weaknesses, like sometimes my reaction time isn't super great, but I have very, very good situational awareness. So I really lean on that, and I don't let anyone take me by surprise, and you can go a long way with that sort of thing. It has nothing to do with my build, right? It's just me using my brain.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully that answers your question, JJ. Thank you very much for writing in.
I would just say one last thing to that email for JJ. I don't think he mentions what he plays on, but if you play on PC and A, come join the goons. Like, come play BGs with us. Like, absolutely, we'd be happy to duo or group up or join the BG night. That's one thing I would highly point out is that playing with this group and the goons that's where I've learned the most about BGs and sets and what works and just discussions and interacting and theory crafting. We're always doing it, and so there's a lot to learn in that. And even if you don't play PC and A, just come and chat in the Discord, and there's a lot of learning conversations that are happening there too.
So. Oh yeah, you'll just learn a ton of just through natural osmosis, just being in the Discord. We're constantly talking about build ideas, and that stuff just kind of sticks after a while. You read through these conversations of build decisions people are trying to make, why they like this ability, why they don't like using this one, and that stuff will just kind of stick in your brain after a while, and you'll be making those decisions for yourself. So yeah, our Discord's a great place. Whether you're on the PCNA server or not, you should definitely come join us. Who's your favorite, Davius? Favorite email? This is a tough one. We had some great emails this week.
We had a lot of great emails. So I've got to say honorable mentions. Grizzly Con, honorable mention. Loved that email. The buff slot nerf was a lot of fun.
Super fun.
And then another honorable mention. I'm gonna go Want to Buy My Dog. The slap skill line was fantastic. But I'm going to give the winner to actually JJ, just mainly because we got a new PvP player. He's coming new to PvP. Seems excited about it. I always love new players coming to PvPlea. Makes it's more fun to play with more people. Plus our queue times get a little bit easier. So excited to have you, JJ.
JJ did not share their gamer tag info. I don't know what platform they're on, so give me a runner-up just in case I'm not able to get JJ their prize.
The runner-up is the Want to Buy My Dog. The slap skill line really got me kind of cracking.
Okay, I will do my best to reach out to JJ, but if they're on a different server, I can't do anything. Sam is upset that Doug something good is happening to one of our
anybody but Dog, his Uncle Sam.
No. That was a great email. I had fun with that one.
But we had a lot of it. Even going back to TJ. I mean, so nice of TJ just sending us a nice email. This was a great lineup of emails. Really appreciate TJ sending in just nice words. He really didn't have to do that and just send in nice stuff. So.
Seriously, this is like an all-star lineup of emails. Just some great emails. Scrollingpodcast@gmail.com. That's where you send the emails. So thank you guys for writing in. We have a guild. The guild's name is Stoon's Goons. It is literally the best PvP guild in the game, and it also just so happens to be the best named guild on the PCNA server. It's also the official guild of the Scrollin' Podcast. If you'd like to join, send us an email at scrollandpodcast@gmail.com, and I'll send you an invite. If your guild roster is full or if you play on a different server, then just come join our Discord. Everyone who's in the Discord is a fully fledged goon. Everyone is welcome. We'd love to have you. scrollandpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the show, an easy thing you can do is go to the Apple Podcast app and give us a star rating or a written review. Just helps people find our show more easily. If you want to go a step further than that, you can go to patreon.com/scrollandpodcast and receive Stoon's Boon for $3 a month. And that gets you some extra benefits, including the Booncast, which is like a short podcast episode that I do alone on the off weeks. I'm still talking about ESO stuff. And there's some other benefits as well. But if you can't do Patreon right now, then just come hang out on the Discord. That doesn't cost anything, and we have one of the best communities on the internet. And like I said, everybody's welcome. Come one, come all. We'd love to have you. Scrollingpodcast@gmail.com once again. Shout out to the chat. We have Jorl, KDMS, Uncle Sam. I think I saw Wilhelm Morty in here earlier. Thank you guys for joining us and hanging out. Always a good time. Shout out to Uncle Sam, Jorl, KDMS, Slavka, Taggart, Kingnar, Crimson Knight, Wanna Buy My Dog, CPU Scientist, Wilhelm. We've all just been hanging out a lot in Discord and playing a lot of BGs and leveling up our Arcanists and just chilling out, hanging out. It's been a lot of fun. Shout out to the Elder Goons, the OGs. Thank you guys for hanging out and for sticking around for so long. I feel like I've said hanging out too many times. And then shout out to our Stoons Boon recipients, our Patreon supporters, Pork Body, Toadster, Gummy Bear, Grizzly Khan, Thomas, Taggart, and Mother of Dragons. Thank you guys so much. Davies, do you have anything else?
I think we covered everything.
Only took us 2 hours.
Not bad. Almost 2 hours on the dot.
Yeah, not too bad at all. All right, well, thank you guys very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.